Good evening, everyone. I'm the storyteller, and I am here to help you sleep better with true horror stories. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like my video. I would love to know where you are from and what time you're watching this video. So please leave a comment to let me know, and I will draw from that experience to tell even better stories. When you are ready, feel free to relax. Last year, I embarked on a solo road trip from Wisconsin to Montana. The roads in that area are largely desolate, with only the initial and final hours offering any semblance of activity. The rest is enveloped in dense forests or expansive fields, and as I ventured further west, I encountered some modest mountains as well. Given my tight schedule, I planned to drive through the night and into the day instead of spreading the journey over 2 full days, which would have meant an extra hotel stay. I realized it would be challenging, but I believed it was a worthwhile decision. I began my journey at 7 p.m. I made sure to verify that all my belongings were securely packed in the car, with my snacks and essentials right beside me in the front seat. Then I ventured onto the road. The initial hour took us through the city and quaint towns, but after that, it was nothing but open road ahead. There are hardly any vehicles on the road, and the only stops available are gas stations roughly every 15 miles. In just an hour or two, I had only consumed a third of my gas tank. With gas stations becoming increasingly scarce, I decided to fill up before venturing into the more remote part of my journey. After a 20-minute search, I finally stumbled upon a station. It was deserted, a tiny spot with just 4 gas pumps. The convenience store stood closed as I pulled in, parking beside a pump before stepping out to begin fueling my vehicle. The atmosphere felt aged. Perhaps it had been some time since the pumps were last in use. The gas trickled out at a sluggish pace, taking nearly a full minute for just a single gallon to flow. I leaned against my car, patiently biding my time. That's around the time another vehicle approached along the road. The speed limit was set at 55, yet it appeared they were barely moving at 20 or 30 as they passed the gas station, only to then decelerate and reverse. That was odd and, to be honest, somewhat perilous on a solitary road like that during the night. However, they reversed to the entrance and parked at the station right behind me at the pump. I assumed they had merely overlooked the entrance and were in urgent need of fuel. I remained focused on my pump, listening as someone exited their vehicle and approached the side of their car. However, after a minute of silence, with no sound of them beginning to pump gas or making any movement, I turned my gaze to see what they were up to. A tall man clad in a gray flannel and black jeans fixed his gaze upon me. As I glanced over, I noticed he was already gazing at me. I offered an awkward smile and a nod before quickly averting my eyes once more. It was impossible to shake the sensation that his gaze lingered on me. After what felt like a long 10 seconds, I finally heard him grab the pump and insert it into his car. A wave of relief washed over me as I thought perhaps he was just getting gas and I had been overthinking the situation. I lingered for another minute before concluding that I had waited long enough, so I took the pump out and secured my gas cap. As I turned, I noticed the man gazing at me once more. His eyes appeared dull and heavy, as if fatigue weighed him down, yet he seemed to have consumed caffeine or something similar. I got in and pulled back onto the road. He seemed odd, but I didn't dwell on it. After a while, during the next 3 hours of the drive, the rain began to fall. I had been on the road for 5 hours now, and it was just past midnight. The rain compelled me to focus intently on the road, transforming the drive into a more exhausting ordeal. I attempted to revive my energy with a drink and some snacks, but they offered little relief. By 1 a.m., I was in desperate need of a break. My fuel was dwindling as well. I navigated the endless, desolate road until at last I spotted a gas station where I could stop. It appeared quite dilapidated and was just as vacant as the previous one, yet it still had the lights on and all. I drove in, filled up my tank, then maneuvered to the side of the small building and parked in one of the available spaces. I checked the weather to determine the duration of the rain and searched for any nearby towns, but found none. It seemed as though I was situated in the midst of emptiness. I ultimately resolved to take a quick 30-minute nap to rejuvenate myself. hoping the rain would ease up as well. I reclined and drifted off to sleep. As I stirred awake, the rain continued to pelt the roof, and my alarm remained silent. Just 25 minutes had passed. I propped myself up and gazed out through the windshield. The entire area was still, yet a vehicle occupied one of the pumps. I leaned in for a better look. It was the same one from the previous stop. I was nearly certain of it. It could either be an enormous coincidence or an indication that something is amiss. Even more strange, the man was nowhere in sight, not in his car or outside. I could feel my face beginning to lose color. Where on earth could this guy be? There was no other place at this deserted gas station where he could possibly be hiding. Whatever this was, I had no desire to linger and discover its nature. I started the car and shifted into reverse. But as I glanced in the mirror while backing out, I saw him not behind my car, but in my back seat. His eyes, cutting through the darkness, fixed on me. I lurched forward, flung my door open, and leaped onto the pavement. The vehicle remained in reverse, gradually moving backward. I began to run, yet I never heard the man exit the car. I dashed into the woods, observing my car as it rolled back for a moment before coming to an abrupt halt. Moments later, he sped off, abandoning me at a desolate gas station, lost in the vast emptiness of nowhere. In that moment, I became aware that my phone remained on the dashboard. I stood there, stunned, letting the rain soak me as I absorbed the gravity of the situation. As I glanced at the vehicle, I noticed he had abandoned his own car. Approaching it, I discovered the door was ajar, keys still in the ignition, and an assortment of groceries scattered in the back seat. By a strange twist of fate, I spotted a phone lying on the floor near the passenger seat. It was locked, yet I managed to call 911 from the lock screen. I didn't realize it then. I suppose I thought the person who took my vehicle was just careless, leaving everything behind. But this car wasn't theirs either. It was stolen as well. Everything within it belonged to someone else, someone the man had treated in the same manner as he did to me. From what I've gathered, they weren't as fortunate to escape entirely unscathed. When conversing with the investigators, it appears they believe the man didn't just slip into my back seat and allow me to drive away without cause. It seemed he intended to bide his time until we were en route to disclose his true identity. The reasons behind his desire to take me captive and his ultimate intentions remained a mystery. He was never discovered, and neither was mine. In the year 2019, during my sophomore year in college, I took on babysitting 3 to 4 nights a week to help cover my car payments. For approximately a month, I cared for a 3-year-old boy once a week. The parents were gentle in their demeanor, yet warm. They typically departed around bedtime, which meant my main responsibility was to ensure the child remained asleep and comfortable during their absence, which usually lasted 4 to 5 hours. As the clock struck 8 p.m., I arrived and greeted the parents, who informed me that their child was already tucked away in bed. They expressed their gratitude and departed. I never inquired about their late-night outings, though I recall them mentioning a trip to the city once. Perhaps it was a date night or something similar. Regardless, I set my bag down and conducted my usual walkthrough of the house before settling into a chair in the living room. They often mentioned, "You're welcome to watch TV, cook dinner, or to do anything else." But most of the time, I simply find myself scrolling on my phone to fill the hours. Every now and then, I would stroll past the children's room to ensure they were all right. Not even an hour in, I received a call from my mother. Naturally, I answered, but I was puzzled when she asked if I had just called her. I replied no, explaining that I was still at home and hadn't made any calls. It seemed she had received a call from an unknown number, but no one spoke when she picked up. She speculated that perhaps I had a new phone or was using a different one, which might have caused the confusion. Arrive as intended, I reassured her that everything was fine on our end. She replied with a okay, and then hung up. I didn't think much of it at the time. She was likely just a worried parent trying to ensure that everything was all right. I conducted another assessment of the child, and then took a seat once more. Approximately 20 minutes went by. I remained engrossed in a video on my phone when suddenly headlights illuminated the front windows. The light filtered through the gaps in the blinds, and I initially assumed it was merely a neighbor arriving home. However, as the minutes passed and the light persisted, I rose and cautiously glanced out the window. A dark gray sedan sat parked by the curb right in front of the house. It was aged and corroded, the windows shrouded in darkness. I was so absorbed in the vehicle for a moment that I nearly overlooked the figure standing just a few feet away. They lingered near the end of the driveway, positioned by the sidewalk, gazing up at the house where I was. A flicker of concern crossed my mind, yet I hesitated to confront them, considering it wasn't my home. Instead, I remained a silent observer from the window. After a minute, he returned to his car and climbed inside. Strangely, they drove away at a leisurely pace, as if they remained captivated by the house. I observed their headlights weaving through the trees along the road, flickering in and out of sight until they came to a halt once more. The light flickered between the trees, remaining distant along the road ahead. Then it turned off as if they had parked and exited. Perhaps it was a visitor looking for a neighbor's house, getting confused with the address numbers along the way. It felt somewhat odd as I lingered by the window for a solid 5 minutes, yet the man never returned to the house. I concluded it was likely just an unusual coincidence. I returned to the chair in the living room, contemplating whether to text the parents. I hesitated, not wanting to cause them concern over what was probably nothing. Besides, it likely wouldn't change anything. So, I opted to turn on the TV, keeping the volume low to avoid waking the child. A few minutes in, I decided to open the blinds too, as I realized I was still preoccupied with it. An entire hour and a half slipped by, perhaps even stretching to 2. During that span, nothing of note occurred. I simply lingered in the living room, the TV flickering in the background as I fought to keep my eyes open. My eyelids felt weighted, and I sensed I was drifting into a half-sleep state, still conscious, yet completely zoned out with my eyes barely open. Yet in my somewhat oblivious condition, I unexpectedly caught a faint thud. It didn't completely rouse me until I heard it once more. My eyes widened as I rose, uncertainty swirling within me. I felt compelled to check on the child first, so I made my way toward the stairs. As I moved through the hallway, the sound echoed once more, and something caught my peripheral vision. I turned my head, and there, outside the back door, stood a figure tugging at the handle. Their gaze locked onto mine. As soon as he noticed my gaze, he began yanking on the handle with even greater intensity, attempting to force it open with sheer strength. My heart raced as I dashed up the stairs. I entered the room and found the child, doing my best to soothe them. As I stood there, the thumping intensified, as if something was being used to force the door open. Cradling the child in my arms, I rushed down the stairs. Upon reaching the bottom, I heard one final sound. It resembled the sharp crack of plastic and metal. I turned back toward the hallway leading to the front door, only to notice that the back door was ajar and a man was hurriedly entering. He wore ordinary casual clothes and had dark hair. That was all I noticed before my gaze fell on the knife in his hand. Without a moment's pause, he charged toward me. I bolted out the front door, jumped into my car, and reversed just as he reached my window. I made my way to a secure location and contacted 911 as well as the parents. Naturally, he had vanished before anyone arrived in my perspective. It seems that the man intended to use the knife to threaten me or potentially inflict harm in order to abduct the child. It felt as though something inevitable was about to unfold. But how could he have known the parents would be absent? And what was the reason for targeting this particular child? Strangely enough, after everything that transpired, the parents ceased all communication with me and chose not to engage my services again. They expressed their gratitude on the night of the incident, but then they fell completely silent. It felt as if they were trying to keep me in the dark about what had transpired. I took it upon myself to dig deeper, but my findings were minimal. The only detail I uncovered was that the mother had previously been married to a man who bore a slight resemblance to the individual I encountered. There's no definitive way to know. I'm merely pondering possibilities. It's been quite some time, so I doubt we'll uncover any answers. I hope your day is filled with health and joy. I invite you to subscribe to my channel to hear true horror stories. Hello, and see you again.